Wanting to learn something new is a pretty common goal for a lot of people. I know plenty of people who want to learn a new skill such as guitar, a new language, or even just continue learning something new at their job. However, a lot of people fail to continue these learning goals. It is very easy to drop a goal of learning something new as soon as life gets too busy. So the question becomes then, how do you not fail at these goals at the first sign of trouble? And you do that by making learning a habit. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a technique that you can use to make learning a habit in your everyday life. Once you've accomplished this, it's going to be so much easier for you to stick to your goals and finally learn whatever it is you've been wanting to learn. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tyler Warlow and I go by The Mengineer. I make videos on how to improve your life through your confidence, capabilities, and overall happiness. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the foundations of habit formation, a few examples that might be applicable to everyday life, and then how you can apply those foundations to making learning an everyday habit. This will help you to be consistent with your learning, even on days where you're feeling tired or not really feeling like it. If this sounds interesting to you, be sure to hit that like and subscribe to join me along in this self-improvement journey. First off, I want to talk about the foundations of the habit loop, a concept that was coined by Charles Duhigg in his book. The habit loop is comprised of three main parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is what triggers the start of this habit loop. The routine is a little bit self-explanatory. This is what you start to do automatically when the habit loop begins. And finally, the reward is the positive sensation that your brain associates with the completion of the routine. One thing to keep in mind with the reward is that it needs to be both immediate and variable. I will cover what this means in just a second. Now that we've covered the basics, let's jump into some examples of the habit loop. First off, let's cover a more detrimental example. The habit is going to be getting on your phone and checking social media for hours. For a lot of people, the cue for getting on social media is actually boredom. They feel boredom, and so that triggers the automatic habit to begin. An internal cue is something that you yourself are feeling or experiencing, and that is what triggers the habit to take place. In this case, once the cue has happened, the routine begins. And the routine for most people is going to be unlocking their phone, opening whichever social media app is their preference, and then beginning to scroll through social media. The routine can become very automatic. Something that I've personally experienced is that I got home from the gym. I saw a notification on my phone for something on Instagram. I hopped on Instagram real quick saying that I would just check this one reel that my friend sent me, and then I ended up sitting in my car for about 20 minutes before I realized what was going on. Like I said, the routine is a very automatic thing. Sometimes you don't really realize that it's happening. Sometimes you do, but you just have a really hard time stopping it. And a lot of people struggle with interrupting this routine, and that's usually because of the reward, the final part of the habit loop. In this case, scrolling through social media typically gives someone a quick dopamine hit. For instance, you're scrolling through reels and you see something that you think is really funny, so you like it and then you might send it to your friend. It's an immediate hit. It made you feel good as soon as you saw it and you related to whatever reel. The other important part of that is that it's a variable reward, which social media has done very well. If you think about when you're scrolling through TikTok or Reels, not every single video that you find is funny or applicable to you. In fact, it's usually about 1 or 2 out of every 10 videos, for me anyway, that are actually funny and I end up watching all the way through. But that is part of the variability. They don't want to give you that dopamine hit every single time because they want you to stay. They want you to keep seeking that reward. Now that we've covered a kind of more doomy and gloomy example, let's talk about a more positive example. We're going to apply the habit loop to someone's habit of working out and exercising. A lot of people use the cue of setting out their workout clothes the night before. When they wake up in the morning, they see their workout clothes sitting out, and that triggers the routine for them to get into exercising. The routine for the exercise would obviously be putting on your gym clothes getting into your car or just going outside, and either driving to the gym or going for a run. This habit loop can even extend as far as exercising, finishing your routine, and having a shower. This then brings us to the reward, which for a lot of people are the endorphins and the dopamine that they get at the end of the workout. For a lot of people, they start to feel good during the workout, which is a very common occurrence with runners, which is why you hear about things such as the runner's high. The variability in this reward comes from how your body responds to the workout. How much endorphins and dopamine your body gives to you after a workout varies from a lot of things based on like how well you slept, how well you ate, how hard was the workout, so it kind of has a built-in variability to it. But now that we've covered a few examples, what about you guys? What are some habits that you have that you might want to continue or break? Let me know in the comments down below. I like to read and respond to as many of them as I can. So now that we've gone over a couple of real life examples, let's go over how you can apply this to build a habit of learning. Let's first look at the cue. A lot of people use time and location as common cues. In my opinion, these work really well together to create a very strong cue. You want to try and be as specific as possible with this. For example, the cue that I personally use for starting my work and working on YouTube is that after I shower when I get home from the gym, I will go into my office and start editing my YouTube videos. It has the specificity of after my shower, and then it has the location of my office. So you can also apply this to learning. Let's say you have a goal of reading several books throughout the year. Your cue can be that when I go into my bedroom at night, I will spend 30 minutes reading my book. I personally like to use specific days or actions for the cues of my habits because when I start getting down into the nitty-gritty of the specific hours, I find that if I miss the hour by a little bit, then I have a tendency to just skip the habit as a whole and not really be consistent with it. But next, let's jump into the routine. Something that I highly recommend you use to build your new habit routine is something that was talked about by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits called habit stacking. This is essentially taking a habit that you have already formed and tacking on this new habit that you want to build either at the beginning or the end of it. Sometimes you can even do it while performing your other habit. So how do you apply this to learning? Well, let's say you have a habit of making yourself a cup of tea every night. You can stack this habit by making yourself a cup of tea, sitting down and reading for 30 minutes, and then doing your bedtime routine. In fact, that way you are stacking the habit in between two already existing habits, making the likelihood of forming this new one even stronger. This is something that I personally made use of, especially in college. I love chai lattes, so I would very commonly make myself a chai latte and then sit down to study. When I was participating in physics tutoring, I would first go and buy my favorite cup of coffee, so that way I would associate it with something strong and make this act of going to physics tutoring easier for me. Now finally, let's cover the reward. Remember that for most people, you're going to need to give yourself an immediate reward. For some, the delayed gratification of passing a test or doing really well in their class is enough to motivate them, but for a lot of people to establish a habit that they didn't already have, they're going to need something a bit more immediate. I personally recommend finding a healthy way to reward yourself. Like I said earlier, I would commonly do my nightly routine right after studying. If I did a particularly long night of studying and I was proud of myself, I would give myself either an extra long shower or an extra cup of tea to help relax myself and motivate myself even further. It is important that you don't do this every single time that you perform this routine. It's important to make it variable because if you do it all the time, your brain comes to expect it even if you didn't necessarily do the habit. There's a couple ways to combat this. You can either change the reward so that way your brain doesn't expect the same thing every time, or you can just change how often you're giving the reward to yourself. Like I said, I didn't take a long shower every single time or make that cup of extra tea every time. It was only if I felt particularly proud of the work that I had done. But that brings us to the end of the video, guys. I hope that you found the information in this video to be helpful to you and that it helps you in building your new habit of learning. If you found the information in this video to be helpful or informative at all, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to join me in this self-improvement journey. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or opinions, be sure to let me know with a comment down below. I like to read and respond to as many of them as possible. If you're interested in more videos like this where I talk about goal-related topics, be sure to check out this video right here where I talk about how to set goals correctly. If you're interested in my most recent stuff, be sure to check out this video right here. But until the next time, this is the Mengineer, signing off.